So from here on out, I'm going to sign a few things, they're just my thoughts. They're not my thoughts or words. I actually got them from Talila Lewis, TL, from her paper that she had wrote. So for a while now, I've been thinking of a few things that maybe you might be a little uneasy on. So today I want to discuss those. I thought that they're a pretty important and serious topic. I don't know if you've been noticing, but a lot with the deaf harding, and just deaf disabled have been occurring a little bit more about imprisonment when they're actually really guilty. A lot of people have been getting caught and put in prison recently. I know I've been looking at these trying to figure out what's going on. So I keep seeing that I've been noticing a lot of the same things going on in a lot of these cases with the deaf hard of hearing, deaf blind, or deaf disabled. And they tend to be all innocent. And it usually starts with the cop. Maybe this cop can sign, but that can lead to wrong imprisonment. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. So what might exactly it look like whenever you're talking to a cop that might know a little sign? Maybe a few ABCs, a little bit of sign, or, maybe it's kind of fluent. He or she's fluent. Maybe the cop is a coda and is fluent, really fluent. Whatever type of signing ability that these cops have, they keep putting deaf people in prison, even though they are innocent. So what exactly is going on with this, and what does it mean to have a conversation with them, and why it can get miscommunicated and have this lack of communication, and why is it causing more problems for the deaf in their deaf imprisonment issues? So I want to let you know what I have noticed in these situations. So you typically have a person, a hearing cop, and they have a person that goes in and can communicate with the deaf and deaf hard of hearing community. But you have to understand that these cops, they hire not a deaf or deaf of hard of hearing person at all. They actually hire a hearing person, and it's actually just a cop, and they use them to communicate with the community. And so I've noticed that has been creating a few problems. So, the deaf or deaf of hard of hearing, deaf blind person might trust this person and start kind of telling them their stories and there's like all these different things, and it might kind of backfire on them. And you have to understand that these cops may be friendly, but they are not your friend. So they're looking for someone or looking for people that they can take in and put in jail. And so I've been noticing a lot of problems that have been showing up recently with many of the cops in different situations. And they've been kind of patting them on the back saying, good job, we have a person that can get into this community and, put them in prison. So I want to make sure that this is a clear understanding for you guys that it has been a problem and it can be dangerous. So, if you find yourself, if you're deaf hard of hearing, deaf disabled, deaf blind person, and you get put in jail or in an interrogation where you're getting questioned, I just want to let you know, you don't just expose yourself and just start telling them all the stories and everything that's been going on. They don't need to know that information. It doesn't matter, if you're, innocent or maybe partly innocent, maybe a little guilty or completely guilty. It doesn't matter. Maybe you're just confused. It does not matter. You do not want to just share all of your information. It can be very dangerous for you. So suppose you're sitting in the situation and the cop is friendly and he can kind of sign a little bit, you might feel a little bit panicked, and now that they can sign, you can kind of feel a little relieved that you can have this conversation with him. But you got to remember that that cop is not your friend. I mean, yeah, your story, you might get convicted or get more punishment for that. So if you're sitting with the cop, and you do have rights, your first right is you need to have a neutral, skilled interpreter, and the second one is that you need a lawyer. And these two things, they're both your rights and they're very important. So when you're sitting with this police officer, make sure that you have a lawyer there. But suppose that there's no interpreter there, do not continue with that conversation. You must wait for that interpreter as well as the lawyer. But suppose there's no lawyer there and there's an interpreter, you must wait for both of them to show up. So first you want the interpreter or the lawyer, but you want to make sure you have both. That is your right. So suppose a police officer, arrests you and they bring you into jail and they sit down, they're questioning you. I really encourage you to follow a few things that I have for you to memorize. The first one, you want to make sure that you let them know that you are deaf, or I am deaf. Deaf blind, deaf hard of hearing, deaf disabled. It just doesn't matter. You want to make sure that you identify yourself and let them know that I am deaf. The second thing that you want to know is that I require, and I use specifically that word, require, for a reason. I mean, you want to make sure that they know that you don't want it, you don't really need it, you don't prefer it, you require to have a lawyer or an attorney. The third thing is that you require to have an interpreter, a qualified and skilled interpreter. And also, I might want to kind of add in there that you may want to ask for a deaf interpreter specifically. And they might offer that, maybe not, but you can ask for that if that's what you prefer. The fourth thing is you also say that you want to stay silent. Staying silent. That is your right. And you want to stay silent until that interpreter and that lawyer arrive. That is your right. And you have to understand, of course, follow in respect of those four things or they have to follow in respect of all four of those things while you stay silent. You're just trying to protect yourself. I also want to let you know it doesn't matter if the police officer is sweet, maybe handsome, very nice and friendly, and maybe he's a coda who could sign, and it really does not matter. And maybe you've seen this cop before at a school or a community event. Maybe he's giving a presentation. He or she's been given a presentation. It does not matter. They are not your friend. They aren't on your side. They're not there to support you. You have to make sure you draw that boundary line and you wait for that interpreter and you wait for that lawyer. Sometimes other things have kind of showed up with the police, while communicating. The police might call another police officer that might know how to sign. Call them into the interrogation and they can be the interpreter. But no, you do not want to allow that. You still have to understand that they are a cop and they both are cops and that you do not want to talk to them. Maybe in another situation, the cop might have a friend that can sign and they bring them in to interpret, but they aren't qualified. You want to wait and wait for a qualified and skilled interpreter that is a neutral as well to come into the room, and make sure that you always have that a lawyer as well. So you're talking to the cop when there's just the interpreter, but you want to make sure that you wait for that lawyer to come as well. So to say you're chatting with the interpreter and the police officer is not in the room, make sure you do not do this as well, because the interpreter, they might have proof of the conversation. I know that you're going to be nervous or scared and a little bit confused in these situations when getting questioned, but it's really easy, especially if the interpreter arrives. You might feel a little bit relieved that you can start having a conversation with her, but that's also dangerous. It's better that you just continue to wait. Make sure you let them know that you're deaf, you require a lawyer, require a skilled interpreter, and you are waiting and to stay silent until you have both of the lawyer and the interpreter until they arrive. That you will continue then. And you don't want to share any information with either one if there's only one there. The police officer might try to woo you or try to trick you and ask you questions. You might feel stuck, and the police officer gives you the opportunity to lie and when you feel uncomfortable and tell stories. And you might have that lack of communication, and you might feel like you need to tell everything that's going on even though you are innocent. You have to make sure that you stay strong and you wait. So after you've told the 4 things that I recommend that you follow, now you want to, continue to stay silent and wait. But what happens if, 2 things? The police officer might get kind of frustrated and just kind of excuse you and let you go home. And, man, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? And then 2, you know, they might make you wait and then until the arrival of the interpreter or the lawyer. But make sure you kind of let them know to see their kind of certification. Because sometimes they might try to say that they might bring someone in that's not certified or licensed to be that lawyer. And then after that, then you can go ahead after you have that proof. And I want to kind of remind you again and make sure that you remember this as you wait silently for the interpreter, a skilled, certified interpreter that has proof. Because then an interpreter might come in and you might get all excited and want to start, telling them everything and talking to them. But the thing is, the interpreter might be able to tell, or might tell the police, or there might be a camera involved and has been recording you. So you don't really want to do that, and you don't want to have a conversation with the interpreter while they are in the room by themselves. Even if the police and the interpreter do not do it, make sure you wait for the lawyer. It is very important. The police officer might offer, try to help. But I've seen in many cases that, the police officer will kind of open up and say that they're trying to help them, but they really are not. It tends to have more consequences, and you end up getting put in jail even though you are innocent. And you might even get put in jail for a longer time, a longer sentence, or more serious consequences. And you might get a little worried about money or how you're going to pay for this lawyer, but it doesn't really matter because it's the law that they require to provide a lawyer for you. And sometimes it might happen that you're sitting there and you're kind of chatting with the police and writing back and forth on a note, but you have to be careful with the writing back and forth part too. It might encourage them. I don't encourage you to write back and forth with the police officer. They might say, oh, yeah, we've called an interpreter already and we're just kind of waiting. It might take a while. So would you prefer just to kind of, they might try to be like getting you. They might try to like trick you. I mean, maybe the situation they might not have called the interpreter, or they have called it, but they're trying to, like take back some of that money and just kind of write back and forth for the time being. So it doesn't matter as long as you say those 4 things. You just kind of stay silent and you wait. You stay strong and you just continue to wait. And you have to understand if you need some kind of medicine or anything like, diabetes, you need an insulin shot because you have low blood sugar, or maybe an inhaler for asthma. I would recommend writing that down and sharing that with them. Maybe write just simple words like diabetes or inhaler, just like short little words to let them know that you need some kind of medicine. But you have to be careful with that kind of stuff. Medicines like that is perfectly fine. Other than that, you just want to stay silent and wait for the lawyer and the interpreter to arrive, and then you can go ahead and discuss with the lawyer. You might be feeling tired or, distressed or scared, maybe a little worried. I mean, maybe you have something else that you need to be doing or other little concerns. It does not really matter. You just continue and you stay rebellious. You stay quiet and you stay there because even if you go ahead and tell your story, I mean, they could put you in jail for the wrong thing. You could be innocent, or maybe you could get even more serious consequences and put in for a longer amount of time. It's just not fair. So, again, I really, really want to stress this. It does not matter if you are innocent. maybe a little innocent, guilty, or fully guilty, confused, it does not matter. When you're sitting with that police officer, and he might be signing a little bit, he might be a coda, can sign pretty well, you just stay silent. You do not sign, don't express anything, no writing, gestures, nothing. Until, what again? Those four things. You let them know that you are deaf, you need an interpreter, you require a lawyer, and you stay silent. And until the lawyer and until that interpreter both arrive, then you will go ahead and discuss with the lawyer. So if the lawyer does not show up and the interpreter does, you still do not sign. You continue to wait. And until it's very important, and I want you to completely understand, and I don't want you to get the wrong information or the court to think that you are guilty or misunderstand. You have to be very careful with this situation. If yourself, you know, a victim or anything like that, and you still are signing to them, you also need to be careful with this situation as well. You want to make sure you have a skilled interpreter, because if you're signing this story and you're emotional, you're upset, the police officer might kind of look at you and get a little confused, kind of see that, maybe might lead you into false imprisonment. Even though you are the victim, the police might see you, or assume that, maybe you started the problem, because you kind of look like you're upset, you're mad, you're emotional, you're kind of out of control, even though you're just upset or scared, and they might misunderstand that situation and arrest you and put you in jail. And even though you're the victim, they got the wrong person because of misunderstanding and miscommunication. So you want to make sure that you wait for that interpreter. So even if you're guilty, you want to make sure that you find a skilled, neutral interpreter and wait for them to come and interpret for you. Very neutral, no issues, and they'll know the culture, the rules, and everything like that. It's very important, and it is your right. Suppose it happens that a police officer misunderstands something and gets the wrong information. And they kind of assume some kind of information, and you go to court. You know, the police officer is, not going to say, sorry, I'm wrong, blah, blah, blah. He's going to stay silent. He's not going to say a word, meaning that, it's kind of a shocker to you, because the judge is not going to believe you. The judge is going to believe the police officer. And that's not right, but it doesn't matter. Oh well, you're going to court or you're going to jail. You have to understand that it's hard to change that once you are put in there. You have to protect yourself. You have the rights. And again, I want to stress those four things one more time. You want to make sure that you know, and you say, I am deaf. I require an interpreter. I require a lawyer. And I am going to remain silent until these two arrive.